أول شيء مساء الخير للجميع وأهلا وسهلا فيكم معنا بهالورشة التعريفية عن مادة الآيلتس أو امتحان الآيلتس. كيف ممكن يتقدم وشو الشغلات اللي ممكن تنشرح. هذا الشيء رح يتم شرحه أكيد مع دكتور نشأت المصري اللي هو أستاذ محاضر بجامعة القدس المفتوحة. عنده الكثير من الابحاث وعنده يعني ما رح في يعده. انا بعتبره هو من عائله اتحاد المترجمين لانه اصلا هو منتسب معنا وهو موجود من الاساس. بلشنا سوا باتحاد المترجمين عبر الدول العربيه. شو ما قلت هلا يمكن شوي يكون الكلام زايد، بس شو ما قلت قليل على دكتور نشأت لأنه عن جد كان بالعلم أو بالخلق إنسان عن جد رائع. بتمنى إنكم وهو بالمناسبة هو رح مسؤول قسم المؤتمرات باتحاد المترجمين وعم يشتغل على مؤتمر ان شاء الله رح ينعقد حضوريا ان شاء الله. يعني عم ندعي انه تضل الامور فاتحه بالبلدان ونقدر نعمله حضوريا بالاردن. فاللي حابب كمان من الدكاتره الافاضل يكون موجود بضمن هذه اللجنه كمان في يتواصل مع دكتور نشأت كرمال يعرف كل التفاصيل الباقيه. برجع برحب فيكم مجددا وبرحب دكتور نشأت وبترك لك الكلام لك تعطيهم كامل المعلومات. وهيدي برجع بعيد دورة هيدي ساعة ونص أو ساعتين تعريفيات هن لحتى اللي بس اللي حابب يشترك بدورة الايلتس اللي هو تحضير لامتحان الايلتس. وفي كتار نحن بحاجة انه هن يخضعوا لهذا الامتحان كرمال الجامعة او كرمال السفر. فهيدي الورشة هي تعريف شو ممكن يتضمن برنامج كامل متكامل مثل ما حكي الدكتور نشأت بده وقت طويل ينشرح. يعطيكم ألف عافية وتفضل أستاذ نشأت.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. I'll start by first of all praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then tonight we're going to talk about an introductory session about the International English Language Testing System, IELTS, International English Language Testing System. And in this course, in this session, we are going to talk about the proficiency tests in general, and then we'll tackle the differences between the most famous of those proficiency tests. These are IELTS and TOEFL, both of which are very famous in the Arab world and in the whole world, actually, all over the world. Then we'll move to the types of IELTS, and we'll discuss the skills within the IELTS and each section that will be presented. And finally, we are going to talk about the way we are going and the method we are going to tackle each and every skill that you have, and how many hours each of these skills will be tackled and discussed within our course. So the course is not a complete course, it's just an introductory, and we're trying to introduce what IELTS is and what parts will be discussed within the IELTS. So English language proficiency tests in the whole world. Do you know, does anyone know the number of English language proficiency tests in the world? How many English language proficiency? How many do you think? Write down the number you think of the proficiency tests within the world. English language proficiency tests. What do you think? 3, very good. Anyone else? Bashir, Hamadi, 3. What do you think? 5, 4, nice. Taha, Fatma, anyone else? Okay, let's say that we have more than 130 proficiency tests all over the world. More than 130 proficiency tests over the world. Okay, just go to Google and just say English language proficiency tests, and you will see hundreds, more than 100 proficiency tests. These proficiency tests are actually a way that the various organizations, English language organizations, try to test people. But we'll talk about some of them. Okay, so of course we have TOEFL, we have IELTS, we have Cambridge English young learners, or we have another Cambridge English adults, which is presented by University of Cambridge, of course. Then we have the two famous ones, TOEFL and IELTS. Then we have CPE, Certificate of Proficiency tests from Cambridge. And then we have TOEIC and Canadian English Language Proficiency Index Program, Oxford Test of English, and many, many, many more. I don't want to talk about them in details, but I need to tell you that the number is increasing. The more organizations who are trying to teach English in the world are increasing, then the number of tests are increasing. Now, as everyone knows, most of the people in the whole world know that the most famous ones are TOEFL and IELTS. TOEFL and IELTS. And these are the most famous tests that we have in English, IELTS and TOEFL. And as you know, that TOEFL is the American test of English as a foreign language, while IELTS is international English language testing system. So we have both of them. But other than that, TOEFL is in English, is American, and IELTS is British. What other differences do we have? And here we need to understand something, that many students ask the question, which test should they take, IELTS or TOEFL? Also, which one is easier? Which one of these should I take? Should I go with IELTS? Should I go with TOEFL? And why? Of course, when we consider this, we have to pay attention to your needs as a student, as a trainer, as an English language speaker. What needs do you have? So the first thing is availability of IELTS or TOEFL. And here we're talking about university accepted tests. Okay, if you're trying to join a university anywhere in the world, you need to understand which test does this university accept. Some of the universities do not accept TOEFL. Others do not accept IELTS. Most of the TOEFL accepting universities are found in America, in the Middle East, and Canada. But IELTS are accepted in many other countries like England, Africa, India, Asia, all of Asia actually, and Australia, as well as some American universities. So both of these tests are very famous. Both of these tests are dependable, and both of these tests are accurate actually. So choosing one of them, you need to pay attention to where are you going and why are you taking the test. We will discuss this issue afterwards, especially when we talk about IELTS. But most English IELTS or TOEFL people who want to take these tests are taking them either for universities or for their daily life. So you do not pay much money, about $300 for each of the exams, just to take the test and see if your English is good or not. You take it for scholarships, you take it for immigration, you take it for other causes. Therefore, you need to see. And then the availability also talks about here whether this test is found in your country or not. Or do you need to travel abroad to take the test? Or can you take it in your own country? So university accepted tests is very important for you. Another issue here is similarities in IELTS and TOEFL. Both tests, and here I'm going to read, have 4 sections, which tests language skills such as reading, listening, speaking, and writing. Moreover, these tests are standardized tests. And when we talk about standardized tests, we're talking about that the whole world is sitting for the same exam. So they do not want to know that you're an Arab or you're Canadian or you're African, Indian. They don't care about your nationality, because of which they are accepted widely all over the world. So both of the tests test actually the 4 skills, but they have different techniques. Okay, so if you look at this, you will see that TOEFL structure and IELTS, structure of TOEFL and IELTS, you will see that in the TOEFL, you will have reading, listening, and then you will have 10-minute break, and then speaking or writing. We're not going deep here, but in IELTS, we have listening, reading, writing, and speaking. Sometimes, and in some countries, the speaking session is conducted in the second day and not in the same day, depending on the number of candidates and the number of people sitting for the exam. So the idea here is not only about taking the exam, it's about the availability of the exam. Reading, listening, and speaking and writing are tested in both of the exams. So they are testing your language, complete understanding of the language. No problem about that. Okay. And if you look at the exact differences, you will see that the IELTS, and we're talking about the academic test, is the duration is 2 hours, 45 minutes, while the TOEFL is about 3 hours, 10 minutes to 4 hours, 20 minutes. That the TOEFL exam is a little bit longer. The IELTS academic test is paper test, while the TOEFL is computer test. Of course, previously, about 7 or 8 years ago, TOEFL was conducted also in paper tests. And we have another type of tests with TOEFL, paper-based tests, PPT, someone. They call it PPT, and this paper-based test is local test. It is it is found within the university. So the university itself sets you for an exam for the test, and this test is only available within the country. So within the country itself and not outside the country. The score here ranges from 0 to 9 for each test, for each skill. So if you take, let's say, 7 in the speaking and 6 in the writing, then you're taking 6.5. So they put these together and they subtract and then they will give you the percentage from 9 out of 9. While in TOEFL, each test has, each skill is tested from 30, and then they add your score to reach up to 120. Then score validity is 2 years. What do you mean by 2 years? Here you mean after 2 years, your test is not valid. It is not accepted all over the world. It's not accepted anywhere, actually. It is just a piece of paper. So you need to repeat the test again. So, and this is one of the negative issues of these, of both of the tests. Some other tests are lifelong, such as the Cambridge test. It is a lifelong test. It is not valid for 2 or more years. Of course, the sections are listening, reading, writing, and speaking, and both of the tests have the same sections with no problems. Okay, if I'm testing the same thing, why there is a difference between IELTS and TOEFL with time? This depends on the exam type and the number of questions, number of paragraphs for reading, the difficulty of paragraph here and there, the listening, etc. So now, of course, with each of them, IELTS academic listening, the listening test within the IELTS is a 40-minute test. We have one text, then content, conversation, then we have a speech, academic, then speech and one academic speech, accent, mostly British accent, here mostly North American accent, from 40 to 60 minutes, usually 2 to 3 students are talking.
We cannot hear anything.
Maybe it's internet issue with Dr. Nashaat. Yalla,
We cannot hear anything.
Just minutes and he will come back.
I can't hear anything. What happened, please?
Maybe it's an internet issue with Dr. Nashaat. Okay, so we want to wait some minutes. I'm called him.
Okay. It's okay, don't worry.
السلام عليكم. أعتذر يا جماعة. أستاذة وديان إذا سمحتي تعطيني
أعطيتك هوست
شيرنج بس.
أعطيتك.
سكرين شير ما في عندي سكرين شير.
Okay, done, Dr. Nashaat.
Okay, good.
Hello.
Hello. Okay, so
I just have a question before you start.
Okay, go on.
I was just wondering what about the score validity.
Yes.
You were mentioning that it was 2 years, so I'm just wondering why it's 2 years.
2 years. I didn't say 3. So is it clear?
Yeah, it's clear.
It's 2 years. Why 2 years? Can anyone answer? Why do you think they're making it for 2 years? So, anyone? Is my voice clear?
Yeah, it's clear.
So why? Why do you think?
I don't know why they are.
Money, that's all. That's all. These organizations are, first of all, they are cultural organizations. They're not. Will you forget the language within 1 year or 2 years or 3 years?
Of course not.
Of course not. And even if you do not speak, if you do not practice the language, you will not forget the whole thing. You will be speaking even in a good way. But the idea is not just they want you to pay more for them. We have to understand that money moves everything in the whole world. So let me start again. Money talks, yes. So with listening, there are, they said, ممكن أفهم وين وصلتوا معي؟ لو متى انقطع الخط هنا صح؟
Yes.
When we were talking about listening, and it is, I talked before about the 2 years period. Okay, then we have the speaking. Okay.
Doctor, you say about speaking 40 to 60 minutes. After that, the internet.
I talked about listening, 40 to 60 minutes. Listening with TOEFL is 40 to 60 minutes. There will be 2 or 3 students talking, and 4 to 6 academic speeches or discussions, and then they will provide you with questions, and you have to answer them from the multiple choice. But with the IELTS, there are only 40 minutes with the listening, and then it's usually one of them is social, which is a conversation. Another would be a speech, would be academic conversation and academic speech. So there are 3 topics, not from 4 to 6 academic speeches or discussions. And the accent is mostly British in the IELTS, while it is mostly North American in the TOEFL. With speaking, again, in academic speaking in IELTS, there is only 15 minutes, and it's a face-to-face interview. Nowadays, with the coronavirus, sometimes they conduct these exams via internet, so conversations on daily topics, personal speeches about a given topic, and discussions with examiner about the topic. They ask you to talk about a certain issue, and then they will ask you questions about your opinions about these things. First of all, they ask you to talk about yourself, life, your family, something personal topics, everyday topics, and then they would give you an academic topic, something that is important in life, and then they would ask you questions about it. Okay, about the TOEFL speaking, it's sometimes you record it on a computer. You answer questions on familiar topics, answer questions based on listening, and answer questions based on both reading and as you'd see that there are differences. the TOEFL and the IELTS speaking test with regard to time, with regard to type, and of course, with regard to content, how they conduct the exam itself. So there are differences. With reading TOEFL, you have 600 minutes, 60 to 1 minutes, about 1.5 hours. And there are 4 to 6 academic passages. Okay, with IELTS, there are 60 minutes, that's all, 1 hour, and it has 3 academic passages, but these 3 academic passages are very long. Sometimes they are more than 3,000 words, while the reading academic passage TOEFL is only about 250, 300 words. So there are differences. Okay. Writing with TOEFL, after reading a passage and listening to a speaker discuss it, write a summary. Then they ask you to write an academic essay on a given topic here with the TOEFL, and it's only for 50 minutes. With IELTS, it's 60 minutes, and they ask you to describe information in a table, graph, chart, or a diagram. And if you consider this thing, especially describing graphs, tables, charts, and diagrams, you will find that you will be prepared. You will be prepared for master's or even PhD discussions of charts and paragraphs and graphs and tables and diagrams. Also, they would ask you to write an argument discussing a given topic and not an academic essay. So here there are differences also with time and with content, but if you master one of them, you will master the second with some certain technical differences between them, between the 2 tests. Okay. Now, after I have finished the differences between TOEFL and IELTS, I need to pay more attention and focus on the IELTS tests in general, and then we'll deal with the IELTS test in all of its types and content. Okay, so we have, with the exam types, we have 2 types actually, IELTS academic and IELTS general training test. Both of these types are used, and we will, but I want to add another one, a third one, which is called IELTS life skills. So the academic, as the name tells us, is used for universities. The general training is used for everyday life, and the life skills is used for companions. So if you're migrating to England, let's say, or you live in England and you want to bring one of your family members, they do not need to take the academic or the general tests. They will take the everyday life, which is only about speaking and reading. Simple. It's very simple. But here, of course, they pay the same amount of money, and they have the same certificate indicating that they have finished, that they know English for life. It's not for general training, and it's not academic, as I mentioned. So we have how many types of IELTS exam? Yes. How many types? 3. Yes, very good. One of them is academic, or is general, and the last one. What do you call the last one?
Life skills.
Life skills.
I forgot the last.
Life skills. ما تحاولوش تناموا. Okay, so life is excellent. Okay, so both tests assess your English language skills in listening, reading, writing, and speaking. ما في عندهم إشكالية. طب شو الاختلاف? What is the difference between the academic and general training? We have to understand that, first of all, the listening and speaking are the same in both tests. Okay? IELTS academic measures English language proficiency needed for an academic higher learning environment. The tasks and texts are accessible to all test takers, irrespective of their subject focus. They don't pay attention to that. They only want to examine your language. IELTS general training measures English language proficiency in a practical, everyday context. The tasks and texts reflect both workplace and social situations, like writing a complaint, reading about, describing something that is social to someone. So these are differences. So with listening for recorded monologues and conversations, with, of course, both languages are the same. When you look at reading, they give you 3 long reading passages with tasks range from the descriptive and factual to discussive and analytical, include nonverbal materials such as diagrams, graphs, illustrations. Texts are authentic. They are taken from books, journals, and newspapers. With reading, with the general training, 3 passages with tasks. Section 1 contains 2 or 3 short factual texts. Section 2 contains 2 short work-related factual texts. The 3 contains 1 longer text on a topic of general interest. If you focus, if you consider how the differences, you will understand that the first one is academic, totally academic, and discusses academic issues, while the general training discusses everyday life, everyday context. With writing, tasks of at least 150 words, where the candidate must summarize, describe, or explain table, graph, chart, diagram. So we have 2 tasks, short essay task of at least 250 words. With the general training, you write letter writing task of at least 150 words and short essay task of at least 250 words. The focus is extremely clear for both of them. So with speaking, both of them will set for face-to-face interview, include short questions, speaking at length about a familiar topic, and structured discussion. شغلات زي بعض، فبتلاحظوا انه listening and speaking are the same, while the academic version of language, reading and writing, are different. Now, if you talk about English or IELTS testing for math, we need to think about each of the skills that they are testing, and each of them consider it in full details. So let's start with listening. First of all, the listening test is 30 minutes. Candidates listen to 4 recorded texts, monologues, and conversations by a range of native speakers, and write their answers to a series of questions. لاحظوا هنا, they write the answers. You write, so sometimes you have to fill the answer. Other times you have to choose multiple choice. A third time you have to choose from 10 answers, not only 1, not 2, not 3, but sometimes you have 7 answers in front of you and you have to choose one of them or to omit one of them. These include questions which test the ability to understand main ideas and detailed factual informations, ability to understand the opinions, attitudes of speakers, ability to understand the purpose of what is said, and ability to follow the development of ideas. واحدة من الأسئلة في الليسننج اللي كانت كتير تزعج بعض الطلاب اللي هو they provide you with a map and they ask you to fill in while listening the names of the places they are talking about. So sometimes they would take you, would make you a map of a university, let's say, or a park, let's say, and within the park you have a zoo, you have a playground, you have a bathroom, you have a public place, you have many things, and you have to, as a listener, you have to identify each of the places, and you have to show, to number the places so that you, they would understand that you know the place as you listen to it. It's not just a direct way of asking questions and you have to choose an answer. No, it's something far beyond that. They start, of course, with an easy questions, telephone numbers, names of places. They dictate the name and you have to fill the name, and they would see if you write the name correctly. Then they move to a harder way of labeling, and they move to a harder way of asking questions until they provide you really with extremely hard and sophisticated language in your listening. So the exam is of course it is all authentic and it is very important. The exam will have more than part one in the exam would be a conversation between two people sit in an everyday social context, a conversation in an accommodation agency, and so on. Part two would be a monologue, so someone would talk, sit in an everyday social context, a speech about a local facilities, etc. Part three would be conversation between up to 4 people, sit in an educational or training context, a university tutor and a student discussing an assignment, and part 4 will be a monologue on an academic subject, university lecture, etc. So within 30 minutes, you have 40 questions to answer, and each one of these, of the 4 parts, will continue. So part 1 will have, let's say, 6 questions, part 2 might have 12 questions, and so on. So the numbers differ from one exam to another, but the ideas are almost the same. So with listening, you have 4 parts within 30 to 30 minutes usually, and you have 40 questions. With reading, you have 60 minutes. The reading component consists of 40 questions also. A variety of question types is used in order to test a wide range of reading skills. ونفس الشيء يا جماعة. They start from an easy question and they move to a very difficult reading beyond the lines, even detail, skimming, scanning, understanding, logical argument. So they do not ask you direct questions. They sometimes even want you to understand the logic behind a certain paragraph or a certain discussion. So with the academic version, includes 3 long texts, which range from descriptive, factual to discursive and analytical. Of course, they take the text from newspapers, magazines, from everywhere. So it's not usually meant for the exam. They take the authentic text and they make it exam. They make an exam out of it. So they modify the text to be suited for the exam. Okay. Then in general training version requires candidate to read extracts from books, magazines, and newspapers as usual. but it is a little bit easier than the other ones. These are not as long as the academic. They focus on the academic a lot because as you are going to study in their country, in their universities, you have to follow and to be able to compete with other people, even if they are British or any other country. You have to be able to not only read, but also to compete and be even better than them. With writing, the academic version of the exam, the writing component of the academic version includes 2 tasks, as I said. One of them is a chart, sometimes it's a table, and they ask you, of course, we have techniques for writing such things, but they give you a table or a chart or sometimes a diagram, and they ask you to write down, to describe the chart with only 150 words. Some people might write 200 words, and which might decrease their marks. Others would not be able to reach to the 150 words, and this also might decrease the marks. So not only you need to write 150 words, you need to be academic with your writing, and you need to be able to every major detail within your writing. So the candidate in task 1 will be presented with a graph, a table, and they have to write it down with their own words. And candidates in task 2, you have to write more. It's about 250 words. And here you discuss a point of view, a problem, your response. Of course, all of your writing should be in the formal style, and you are not supposed to write anything in everyday language. You have to show that you are a master of academic language. With general training version, the writing component includes 2 tasks, but these 2 tasks are a little bit life skills, as I said before. One of them is writing a letter of complaint, letter of, let's say, asking for a loan. And your language does not need to be formal all the time. So you can be semi-formal or formal. It's up to. So in task 2, the candidates will be asked to write an essay, response to a point of view, argument of a problem, and these problems are usually related to social life. In academic writing, these are usually academic. The essay can be slightly more personal in style than the academic writing task 2 essay. As I said, here they want to know whether you are able to communicate with the community or not. Okay, with speaking, as I said, it's 14 minutes, 11 to 14 minutes only. And every speaking test is recorded. With part 1, they will ask you to answer general questions about yourself. They will ask you to introduce yourself. They will ask you about your hobbies, home, your family, your work or studies, your interests in general. And this would last from 4 to 5 minutes, depending on you. The second part, candidates will be given a minute to prepare. So they give you a paper, the piece of paper, and within this piece of paper, they will ask you to talk about a certain thing, a certain topic. So what you do here is you write down the major ideas that you are going to speak about regarding this topic. And they stop you while you're speaking. They will give you about 2 minutes to speak about this topic. The examiner will then ask 1 or 2 questions on the same topic to finish this part of the test. So part 2 is actually a monologue. You are speaking, and then he will clarify some ideas and some questions. Part 3, candidates will be asked further questions connected to the topic in part 2. These questions will provide an opportunity to discuss more abstract issues and ideas. And this lasts for about 4 to 5 minutes. So if we say that 4 minutes in part 1, 4 minutes, 2 minutes in part 2, and 4 minutes in part 3, and then the speaking component is delivered in such a way that does not allow candidates to rehearse. ما حيخليك تحاول تفكر. Okay, so there's no way that you would come there memorizing a certain way, a certain let's say speech, and you come say it. They would never give you the opportunity to speak like that. They would ask you, and they would stop you, and they would ask for clarification, and they would ask you to repeat and to clarify, and sometimes they would change the question in a way to show that you are speaking and not you are memorizing or rehearsing certain words. Okay. Now, in our course, hopefully, the course would be 40 hours, 16 sessions, and each session would be 2.5 hours. So 40 hours, 16 sessions, 2.5 hours each. With reading, you will have 3 sessions, 2.5 hours, listening the same, writing and speaking. Each of these, you would be given the first lecture. You would be given exams, and you start the exam by actually taking the exams and discussing some reading texts. For example, the reading, discussing the reading text in details, trying to teach you how to answer the questions. Sometimes, let's say, they would give you a paragraph within the reading passage, and they would ask you to answer in no more than 3 words. And your answer should not be more than 3 words. Of course, A is a word, is a word. So they would count every word that you're answering. What if my answer is correct, but I have like 4 words and they're asking for 3? Then it's incorrect. So the answer, the correctness of each question has to do with the question they are asking you to answer and the amount of words. Sometimes your answer should be 1 word only. And if you answer it in 2 words, A in front of the word, then your answer would be incorrect because it's computerized. Okay, so with reading, we will deal with the 2 types of the exam, or if the number of students who are trainees who would like to take academic only, then we'll tackle only academic issues and only academic paragraphs. Of course, I'll provide you with a number of techniques to distract the answers correctly and understand each of the reading texts in a way that helps you in answering the questions correctly. Then listening, techniques of listening is very important. So, they ask you the question, the same questions to answer with 2 words or 3 words, and sometimes they ask you to provide only a number or Times they would give you an answer. They would ask you to answer the question. So you have the ability to write more. Here, with reading and with listening, the receptive question, the receptive skills, they give you particularly a number of words to see if you are really capable of understanding people around you, whether it is in reading or in listening. The question here is not that you say it's that the question to them is that you understand the words or not. And of course, we're talking here about reading or listening. With production skills, productive skills, writing and speaking, also they want you to be able to read, to write, and they want you to be able to transfer images, graphs, tables into words. And this, as I said before, will help you a lot in your studies. It will provide you with great skills to transforming the paragraphs or the graphs in front of you words. This, when they ask you to write it with 150 words only, this will help you to be extremely precise and you concentrate a lot. They don't like speaking without words. They don't like that you only talk without an objective in front of you, and therefore with writing or with speaking, they limit the time and they limit the, of course, the space, the writing space. So this way, of course, with reading, with listening and writing and speaking, you will be presented with the techniques that will help you to overcome all the difficulties that you will face with each of these exams. But if I have 12 sessions here, what am I going to do with the other sessions? With the other sessions, we have exams. You are going to sit for an exam, each one of you, and I might even send you more than one exam for each of the trainees, and then you are supposed to answer these. I'll mark them for you, and then you will know exactly your mark and how much the grade you are going to take in each of the exams, of course, and this will provide you with a clear vision of your skills. إذا بتلاحظوا هنا, look at these here, the reading, listening, writing, and speaking. There are 30, while with exams you will have 10 more hours, and then you will be finalizing the whole training course with 40 hours. But let's say one question, and this question is, who should take the IELTS training? يعني, will it be easy for everyone to take the IELTS training and sit? Of course not. At least you have to be intermediate or above. If you're not in the intermediate levels, I do not advise you to take IELTS training session, since these 40 hours, they do not teach you reading. We only teach you techniques of passing the exam. They do not teach you listening. They teach you passing the listening exam, and so on and so forth. So we are not teaching skills. we are teaching techniques, and this is very important. So if you feel that you really need the IELTS certificate, whether for your general life or for academic purposes, if your English level is not above intermediate, I advise you to go and try to increase your English skills. This training course will not be helpful for you. If you want it to be, as I said, intermediate or above. تقريبا هاي كل المحاضرة وهذا كل اللقاء اللي أنا قدرت ألخص فيه. أول شيء سامحوني أكون سريع شوي، قدرت ألخص فيه كل ما يمكن تقديمه عن الآيلتس. if you have any questions تفضل.
مشكورة كتير دكتور نشأت، بس في عندي إضاءة صغيرة بالنسبة للينك الشهادات حطيناه هلا. بتمنى انكم تكتبوا اسمكم باللغة الإنجليزية، اللي مكتوب اسمه باللغة العربية ما رح نقدر نعمل سيرتيفيكت. اوكي، بتمنى منكم الاسم يكون مكتوب باللغة الإنجليزية. وفي عنا استاذة نور حابة تطرح سؤال رفع ايدها. تفضلي استاذة نور.
أول شيء يسعد مساكم جميعا ويعطيك العافية دكتور نشأت. First of all, thanks a lot of your efforts. And I knew you before. I don't know if you remember me or not. As you know, one of the seniors of Al-Quds Open University, and I took 2 courses before with you. So also,
your name rings lots of bells in my mind.
Noor Zaber. I took with you listening course and American literature.
Mm-hmm.
I'm from middle French, by the way. So
okay,
I graduated from 2 years ago.
Okay.
Okay. So as I heard before, there will be conferences face to face in Jordan. So I will be pleased if I can join to it. And for IELTS, really your efforts to describe that, I appreciate that, and thank you for that. But I have a question. So if I want to take this course or this IELTS course, so I can take every details about this exam or this test. So I don't know if there is something guarantee for this test, or will be something hesitance. So what do you think? Because I need the for
so
my
what information about.
Yes,
you were to the information about the test.
Yes, so it's about detailed. I will take in this course like detailed informations or. شكلك مش سامع. Can you hear me, Dr. Nashaat?
Okay.
Or
Sorry, Dr. Nashaat has a new internet issue. We want to wait him some few minutes. He's again. يلا.
I have a question. I want to ask some question.
Okay. تفضل دكتور نشأت. Go on.
Okay, so if you're asking about the general information about the IELTS, I provided you with that. If you're asking about books and other materials, I'll be happy to provide them for you. I'll give you exams, day-to-day exams exams. So if let's say that yesterday, like December 1st, they gave an exam in England or in India, I'll provide with that exam the very next day, inshallah. So not only I'll provide you with the exam, but also with the answers for each and every exam that they sit for, with maybe 24-hour or 48-hour time only period of time. So it's easy. Hopefully, you will be able to practice a lot with IELTS with us, inshallah. Yes, any other question?
Okay, so I have a question.
تفضلي.
How can I calculate my score?
Okay,
Or
so
like for the exam,
as I,
so like if I
as I said before, they will provide you a score out of 9 for each lesson, for each skill. So let's say that you get 8 in speaking. Let's say I'm writing in the chat, and let's say that you got 7 in reading, and then you get 6.5 in writing. Let's say like all this information, they will provide you with individual mark for each one of them, and then they will have they will calculate the 4 skills and provide you with like.
So what should what should my total score be?
Here, let's say that what do you have more? Speaking, reading, writing, and listening. And listening, since list is not that difficult for you, you got also 8. Then here your mark would be 7.5. 8 plus 8 plus 7 plus 6.5, it's almost 7.5. Okay, and by the way, if you're trying to study masters, 6 is acceptable all over the world. If you're trying to study PhD, it's 7 that is accepted all over the world. Okay.
Is the exam easy or difficult?
If your skills are advanced, intermediate and above, and you take the course, it would be easier for you to answer it. And since you're able to answer the exam, you will get the mark easily, inshallah.
Thank you.
So you have to ask yourself, what do I need it for? If it is academic, then you will focus on academic things, issues. If it is general, then we'll focus on general issues, and you will it will be easier for you. Okay.
I think the exam, it's difficult.
Nothing
Yeah.
nothing is easy until you are well trained for that, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah, inshallah.
if you don't know the technique of the exam, any exam, it would be difficult for you, even if it is an everyday exam. Even when you meet someone,
Okay, so
when you meet someone, you would ask your friend, how is he? How is this girl? How is this man? Before meeting them. And when you meet them, if you know him well, it will be easy. If not, then life is not that easy.
can I ask a question? If based
Of course,
on your
please.
experience,
Yes.
based on your experience, what is the technique that I can use for the skills? I mean, what is the secret?
The secret for writing is reading. You need to read a lot, and you need practice writing a lot. Where do you study?
I'm studying in Malaysia.
Malaysia. What do you study in Malaysia?
I'm PhD.
PhD student for what? What course? What major?
I'm PhD student for management.
Management. Okay, so you first of all you need to read a lot. If you really want to master writing, you need to read a lot. You need to read academic papers. You need to read books, and you need to read magazines, and then you need to read to understand the methods of writing, and how to write a topic sentence, how to write a supporting idea, how to write paragraphs, how to make the whole paragraph, the whole passage that you're writing connected with each other. The connectors are very important. So in each skill, each of these skills, there are some issues that I really train you about in order to make you stronger. So when they provide you of a graph in a book or something, or sometimes in a test, look at that graph, you describe it for him in just 150 words, and if this graph has like 15 or 20 piece of information, this would be extremely you just provide the information in a way to limit yourself for 150 words. So you need to understand the methods of doing that. Of course, the academic, since you are taking the IELTS for a PhD or post-PhD, postdoctorate degree, then you have to take the academic test. I found this. Okay.
I have another question. So based on the 4 skills, which one is the hardest to tackle? Is it writing or reading or listening, or it's
the hard?
Yes.
The hardest. What do you think? Okay, I'm asking everyone, what do you think is the hardest skills that you need to develop?
I think it's writing.
Okay, writing. Dr. Rizq says the most difficult. Do you think? Everyone? What do you just write one word? Read, writing, speaking, or listening? MashaAllah, Doctor. It's a simple question. Okay. Maybe listening. Okay, depends. Okay, let's say that more are skill. Why? Okay, that's the idea. We don't read. And the second one is writing. Is my voice clear?
Your voice was not clear.
Clear?
Not really.
Just give me.
No, clear, clear. I can hear you.
Is my voice clear?
And now it's back.
I said
Now it's not.
reading.
Yeah, now no.
Writing. Is my voice clear now?
Yes, it's clear. Now it's clear.
So the most difficult one is reading. Most people think that is the most difficult one. Why? Because we do not read. Secondly, we need to understand the intention of the writer, not only the words, in order to provide answer. Third, we minimize our words in a way that suits the answer, suits the question. So sometimes they ask you to write only 2, not more. Sometimes they ask you to write 1 word. And this would be your answer. As they are, and the choices are extremely related to each other with only 1 or 2 differences. So reading, I think reading is the most difficult. Also, is very important here.
Can I ask one more question? If it's possible.
Just let me give you one thing. How fast are you in your reading? Don't forget that you don't forget that you have 60 minutes to answer 3 reading selections. 3 reading selections, each one is about 3,000 words. Not only you're asked to read, you are asked to analyze, and you are asked to give opinions. And you are asked to understand it. Okay. Jihan,
Analyze the article or analyze.
Listening because some accent is not clear. Most of the times in IELTS, it's clear. Yes, Jude, تفضلي.
How can I analyze, for example, if I'm reading